Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a true master in product leadership? Well, get ready to revolutionize your career and team with practical, fresh insights. Stay tuned for big, easy, new, and safe strategies to elevate your product leadership skills. Now, imagine going from managing tasks to leading a team of over 35 product professionals in just a couple of years. That's exactly what our guest today, Sailendra Kumar, Senior Director of Product Management at Indeed, did. And he's here to share his winning script for success. Coming up, scaling teams rapidly, transitioning into people leadership, making the transition from task manager to people manager, and building and managing a product team, defining success metrics, the challenges and support that you need for product leaders, and cultural integration and communication. Now, Sailendra's incredible journey involves rising from a software engineer to the head of product and senior director of product now, and moving to a new country and successfully building a product team from scratch to over 35 members. But here's the kicker. How did he achieve this remarkable feat in 2.5 years? But before that, there's just one thing I wanted to know from him. Are there any resources that he would recommend to support product leaders working with multicultural teams?
Absolutely. And, there were a lot of books that helped me throughout the way. So I would say one of the books that really helped me was this called Culture Map. So that was a book that talks about how different countries have different way of doing things, different cultural aspects of things. Another books were about, it was more about learning how to understand people, how to understand their purpose. Another book is called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. That was another book that helped me a lot about understanding people in different cultures.
Thanks for those resource references. I'd love you to share what you've learned from hiring, promoting, incentivizing, and finding the right, wrong people. But first, how did you go about building a team for your business model? What are the structures and priority steps that you followed?
So why do we actually build a team? So what is the vision that we're looking for? The very first thing that comes into play before building out a team, hiring people, is that what is the vision that we want to achieve? Now, from a vision point of view, our vision was to create a world where access to work and job seekers is frictionless. Now, with this vision, the next step was to how do you actually break out this vision into separate executable chunks? So, for example, if you want to execute this vision, how do you break it down? So we looked into, primarily as a leadership team, we looked into what are the different business verticals that we have. And then at the same time, from an R&D point of view, what are the different horizontals we'll have to support those business verticals, right? So we broke down our business verticals typically into 4 different groups. So the first group was acquisition, where we go ahead and hire people inside the marketplace. Second group is fulfillment, which is actually used, which actually ensures that we fill the client roles. Third group is around client. So the client group is actually which ensures that we get the jobs on the platform in a seamless way. And then there is a fourth group, which is time and attendance, which ensures that if this worker has gone to a client premise, we get the time in the right way. And we then go ahead and pay this worker at the right time. Now, all these 4 groups were supported by 2 horizontals. So one horizontal was a data platform horizontal, which ensures that we have the right data at the right point in the journey to take the right decisions. And then it was also supported by something called as a vertical or horizontal around sphere. So sphere is like security, privacy, so on and so forth. So how do you take care of those aspects? These 4 verticals plus these two horizontals combined made up the entire R&D function, or call it the entire service group way of operating inside the organization. The next stage was that now that we have these verticals and the horizontals, how does success look like for each of these verticals, right? So, for example, how does success look like for acquisition? Or let's take a step back and say, what is the goal for this vertical? What is the goal for client? What is the goal for time and attendance? And what is the goal for the fulfillment team? Now, a goal defined into a quantitative aspects becomes a North Star for that particular domain. And then combine all of these North Star, a North Star comes for the organization. Now, with this as a North Star, what are the different ways you can break down this North Star into input metric from a different vertical? So, for example, what are the different metric from an acquisition point of view, input metric?
Okay, So vision and direction first. I'm interested in you expanding the steps you followed in building your team, hiring the skills needed, and the lessons learned. But first, could you please explain the specific metrics that you used in this process and how you initially started?
So I'll move to the metric a bit later, but I'll explain the principle of building out this team. So when you are building such an infant team, the first goal is how do you have a seed team built out of it. Now the seed team would be built by hiring some leaders and some senior level individual contributors, and that was my goal in the first 6 months. So from June 2020 to December 2020, I ensured that I hire the seed team. So that the seed team comprised of folks taking care of in each of these verticals. So 5 or 6 product managers at that point in time at a senior level or at a lead level kind of product managers. Now, once we had the team up and running, so which means that we had a set of backlog that we wanted to develop, we had a set of metric that we wanted to do. The next goal here was that how do you grow this team further? And in order to grow this team, this entire map that I talked about, so what is the high-level North Star for a domain? What are the different input metrics for a domain? And how many people do you need? And this is all I'm talking from a product point of view. Now, once you have that product manager and the product director or domain mapping, you can go ahead and think about how does your engineering team scale at the same time. So we wanted to follow a Spotify kind of a model, which is very similar to what Indeed also follows. So we have pods who work on deeper long-running charters and metric. So for example, one pod looking into one set of metric, another pod looking into one metric, which actually ties back to the domain metric, which actually ties back to the organizational goals of revenue, cost, or the organization KRs. So that was all about looking into how do you build that capacity planning, basically how do you build that recruitment pipeline or recruitment plan, and then the actual job of having people inside that recruitment pipeline and hiring those people.
Thanks for outlining that starting off point. It's great. Now, looking at the steps that you've broken down, who did you hire and what is the reasoning behind them?
Now, in a fledgling kind of an organization, you're growing teams, you will not have a very standard set of practice at that point in time. So although we were part of larger Indeed, but Indeed Flex as a whole, if you see, it became a company when we hired a company called Sift. So there was a startup culture that at present we have to build a lot of things at that point in time. So you need people who are actually of that kind of a mindset. And if you are hiring fast, you have to have certain set of principles on which you hire, because if you wait to hire for a long time, or you see a lot of candidates before hiring somebody, you waste a lot of time, you won't be able to build a team. So first we had a set of interview panels. So the interview panel was my VP of engineering, director of engineering, the leads that we hired initially in the product team, plus somebody from the cross-functional team, from the SLT. So we set out a set of processes that, okay, these will be the 4 interviews, there will be an assignment. If we are hiring leads, this will be the assignment there. If we are hiring somebody from the design side of things, this is how we will hire people. So setting out a set of rules. And then we didn't want to compromise on 3 things when we hire. So the first thing we didn't want to compromise was somebody who is a good problem solver. Second, somebody who understands data and understands the vision of using data and optimizing things. And third, we wanted people to have empathy. So people who understand people who can go deep inside people and understand what they are feeling. So they can bring people together, collaboration, so on and so forth. And this is what we actually wanted to build as a quality for the R&D team going forward. So you have 3 of these qualities. You can take the teams forward. So you have the quality, you have the vision of change, and then comes the over-communicating aspect of it, that why we are doing some things. Because there is a lot of change going on in the company at the same time. And if you don't take people along in the change, because there will be people who will be taking care of a large area, which will now be broken down into 4 different areas. So there are things being taken away from them, or there are things being put onto their plate. So how do you over-communicate so that people know that why this change is happening? Why life is brighter on the other side of things? Why this is going... Yeah. Why this is going to grow. And one of the things I want to specifically call out, that at some point you will also realize that you have hired the wrong people. So there are people who are expecting I would say, who are were not meant for a fast-moving startup kind of an organization. So what do you do with those people? So you try to coach, and they're not able to pick up. How do you ensure that we let go those people at the right time so that the organization doesn't suffer?
Well, that's an innovative thought process for building a team. I really like it. What would you say are the success metrics around product management and managing product management teams?
So typically we look into what and how.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, what will be mostly around what the teams have achieved in terms of their metric, right? So there are two things that we see: the metric that you have, and then the smart goals that you have over the quarter. Then how is the thing that we see all the qualitative aspects of things. So how collaborative you were, right? How did you take people along? How did you inbuild empathy in your team, between users, with the team and others? So we are still in the process of getting to that quantitative definition of how successful the teams are. But somewhere in the middle, we will see that these quantitative aspects, can you quantify that?
So finding the balance between metrics and quality is really, really important. As many people know, this video is brought to you by Amplitude, which I think is the world's best product analytics software by far. Now, Sailendra, your career has involved the evolution from managing tasks to managing people. What can you share from your experience in this transition? And are there any lessons that you learned from it?
I think the journey really began when I started moving from a direct manager to an influencer. So when I say influencer, so you become manager of a manager, right? So, and one of the things that I started to notice is when you start losing that control, right? So you know that, okay, these are the people who work with me, they report to me. So you know that you can work with this team, build out this strategy, and this team goes ahead and executes. And at any point in time, you know that what this team is working on, you can directly talk to people and understand that. But then slowly and steadily, when the team started to grow, one of the things I realized was that I can't have a lot of control over the team directly myself. Now, if you don't have that level of control, how do you build that influence? And I started to learn it with the leaders that I work with. So, and it was at the opportune time that Indeed Group helped me by giving an executive coach. Now, the executive coach was the person which I used to interact a lot. And in order to understand what are the things I can do, what are the biases that I have, how I could do things differently. Now, couple of learnings that I had from my coaching sessions was, first, all of us are born with a lot of biases. Born, or let rather say, we when we reach certain stage, we have a lot of biases that control us. Now, these biases are actually inbuilt within us based on from where we come, where we grow, the culture that we have seen, the places that we have worked, the people that we interact with. The idea is, how do you understand yourself first? Now, if you constantly go ahead and hammer people, hey, do this, you won't get a time to take a step back and think about yourself, that what is it that I'm going to achieve by doing this? And the second thing which I understood is, what is my intent when I do something? And the third thing is, why this is important to me. If I ask those questions myself, that what is my intent when I do this? Why this is important? It gives me a lot of clarity that what do I want to achieve? Now, every time when I started to think back, I started to see that my intent mostly was get the work done. My intent never was that I want to take people along. My intent was, I never thought about people actually, that there are people in the journey who are working with me, who I have to take along. And I never cared about that. Then I asked myself, hey, I never tried to take people along. I always focus on work. Then how can I expect a different result? And that is when it stumbled upon me that I will first clear my intent, that if I'm doing something, what are the outcomes I want to achieve? Now, of the task outcome, I also started to take two more outcomes along with me. First outcome is, have I taken people along? And the second outcome is, how did I manage myself while doing this? So one is task, second is people, and third is myself, managing myself. And slowly and steadily, with the experimentation process, collaboration process, I got to learn a lot of tools. I took help a lot from a lot of leaders.
Sailendra, I deeply respect the important role of coaches at a leadership level. Are there any challenges that you're facing currently as a product leader?
I think one of the things which I think will remain is how do you be more self-aware? So how do you know why we are doing what you are doing? And then The second thing about a product leader is how, or let's say for any leader, is how clearly you can communicate your mind to your team. Now, the efficiency, the direction that a team operates on is very much dependent upon how clear the leader is in their mind. I think at this point in time, I'm bringing that clarity myself. And I think the second challenge that I'm trying to get is self-management. So there's a lot happening around. This is the first role that I have taken such a big responsibility, and I'm learning how to manage myself and the team and such a big responsibility at the same time.
Well, thank you for being so open and sharing. What do you use as a framework to guide your role as a product manager and create a positive impact on your team?
Now, the IT framework, I read it somewhere like a couple of months back, and it really aligned to my values there. So it, we, and I is, so it is about the work. What is the work that we're trying to achieve? It is all about ideas. It is all about vision and so on and so forth. We is about people, and then I is about myself. So as I said, emphasized multiple times in this podcast. So as a leader, I try to prioritize all and see that how can I, so my intent typically is 3 at the same time. So whenever I do something, my intent is threefold. First intent is, are we in the right direction from a work point of view? Basically the it. So when I say right direction, I'm talking about direction, I'm talking about data. Do we have the right data to make the decisions? Do we have the right people who can do the work? And then I'm talking about we. We is that about people, and have we taken people along? Who are the right people to be on the journey? Who are the people who should be taken along? Have we communicated enough the direction to these people? And have we solicited feedback enough from these people so that we can move ahead? And third is about I. It's really about if you are not in the right mental frame as a leader, none of it or we will matter at that time. So how do you manage yourself in taking that it and we together and moving ahead in your journey to create impact for your users?
Well, thanks so much for watching. And if you want to connect and follow Sailendra, follow him on LinkedIn for continued insights. If you're ready for more strategies and knowledge, be sure to watch the next video in our series on product team success. Go to the link there, and it could reshape your career and the way you approach team management. Now, a special thanks to Amplitude for the invaluable partnership in producing this series. I can't wait for you to join us for the next one. Until then, bye for now.